The stars were cold and empty in Sector 17 Gamma. This part of space was known as the graveyard. Ships came here to die. Pirates hid in the debris fields. No patrol vessels ever came this far out. It was the kind of place where bad things happened and no one ever found out. Commander Lyeth stood at the viewing window of her survey vessel. The quiet dawn. She was Velari, a species known throughout the galaxy for their peaceful ways and their love of knowledge. Her skin was silver like moonlight on water. She had 4 eyes, 2 large ones in the front and 2 smaller ones on the sides of her head. This let her see almost everything around her without turning. Her people had never built weapons of war. They explored. They studied. They recorded the wonders of the universe in great libraries that floated among the stars. Lyeth had been surveying this sector for 3 weeks. Her mission was simple: map the debris fields, record any interesting findings, return home. She was tired and ready to see her family again. Her daughter was about to celebrate her coming-of-age ceremony, and Lyeth did not want to miss it. "Commander," her sensor officer called out. His name was Torek, and he was young for a Velari. Barely 40 years old. "I am detecting something strange in the debris field ahead." Lyeth walked over to his station. "What is it?" "A small vessel. Very small. It appears to be an escape pod." Lyeth felt her hearts beat faster. She had 2 of them, like all Velari. "Can you identify the origin?" Torek worked his controls. The image on the screen became clearer. The escape pod was battered and burned. It had been through something terrible. On its side, Lyeth could see markings she recognized from her studies. "It is human," Torek said quietly. The bridge went silent. Humans were a young species. They had only been traveling among the stars for about 200 years. The Velari had been doing it for thousands. Most species in the galaxy did not pay much attention to humans. They were too new, too small, too unimportant. The Velari Collective had no treaties with them, no trade agreements, no official contact at all. "Life signs?" Lyeth asked. Torek checked his readings twice before answering. 1. Very weak. The human is alive, but barely. Oxygen levels in the pod are almost gone. I estimate maybe 2 hours before the human dies. Lyeth looked at the escape pod floating in the void. She thought about her mission. She thought about the protocols. The rules were clear. Do not interfere with other species unless there is a formal agreement. Do not take risks that could endanger the ship or crew. Report unusual findings and continue with assigned tasks. She thought about her daughter waiting at home. She thought about the questions her superiors would ask if she brought an alien aboard. Then she thought about the human in that pod, alone, dying, with no one coming to help. "Bring the pod aboard," Lyeth said. Torek looked at her with surprise. "Commander, the protocols." "I know the protocols," Lyeth said softly. "Bring the pod aboard." The crew worked quickly. The escape pod was pulled into the cargo bay with careful movements. When Lyeth arrived at the bay, her medical officer was already scanning the pod through its small window. "The human is male," the medical officer reported. Her name was Venna, and she was the oldest member of the crew. Young by their standards, severe injuries. Burns on his arms and chest. Broken bones. He has been without proper oxygen for a long time. His brain may be damaged. "Can you save him?" Lyeth asked. Venna hesitated. "I do not know much about human bodies. They are so different from us." They opened the pod. The smell of blood and burned metal filled the air. Inside lay a human man. He was small compared to the Velari, who were tall and thin. His skin was brown, covered in cuts and burns. His hair was black and matted with dried blood. His eyes were closed, and his breathing was so shallow that Lyeth could barely see his chest move. He wore the uniform of a cargo pilot. On his chest was a name tag that said, D. Mercer. Lyeth helped Venna carry him to the medical bay. For the next several hours, they worked to save his life. Venna used every piece of medical knowledge she had. She searched the ship's database for information about human biology. She made guesses when she had to. Lyeth stayed by her side the whole time, handing her tools and watching the human's vital signs on the monitor. Twice, his heart stopped. Twice, Venna brought him back. By the time the sun rose on Lyeth's homeworld far away, the human was stable. He was not awake, but he was alive. Lyeth sat beside his bed and looked at his face. He was so young. She wondered what had happened to him. She wondered if anyone was looking for him. She wondered if she had made the right choice. Her communication system beeped. It was a message from her superiors at the collective. They had detected the life sign of an unknown species on her ship. They demanded an explanation. Lyeth took a deep breath and began to write her report. She told them the truth. She had found a dying human and saved him. She did not apologize for her decision. She simply stated what she had done and why. The response came quickly. Her superiors were not happy. They told her she had broken protocol. They told her there could be consequences. They ordered her to keep the human isolated and return to Velar space immediately for review. Lyeth read the message and then deleted it. She would face whatever consequences came, but she would not regret what she had done. For 11 days, she cared for the human. She learned his name was Danny Mercer. She learned he was 26 years old. She learned he had been hauling supplies to a frontier colony when raiders attacked his ship. His crew had died. He had escaped in the pod. He had drifted for 3 days before she found him. On the 11th day, Danny opened his eyes. He saw Lyeth sitting beside him. He saw her silver skin and her 4 gentle eyes. He did not scream or pull away. He simply looked at her for a long moment. "You saved me," he whispered. His voice was rough and weak. "Yes," Lyeth said. "Why?" Lyeth thought about the question. She thought about protocols and consequences, and all the reasons she should have left him to die. "Because you were dying," she said finally, "and I could help. It was the right thing to do." Danny's eyes filled with tears. He reached out and took her hand. Her skin was cool and smooth against his rough fingers. "Thank you," he said. "I will never forget this. I promise you. As long as I live, I will never forget what you did for me." Lyeth smiled. It was a small movement of her mouth that humans might not even recognize as a smile. But it was warm and real. "Rest now," she said. "You are safe." Danny closed his eyes and slept. And Lyeth stayed by his side, watching over the strange young human who had drifted into her life from the cold and empty stars. She did not know it then. But that moment would change everything. Not just for her, not just for Danny, but for 2 entire species who had never met before. One small act of kindness, one life saved, one promise made in a quiet medical bay, on a survey ship, far from home. The universe remembered such things. Even when people forgot, the universe kept count. And one day, it would balance the scales. Danny Mercer returned to human space with a story that seemed impossible. He told people about the alien who had saved his life. He described her silver skin that shone like starlight. He talked about her 4 eyes that held so much kindness. He explained how she had spent 11 days nursing him back to health, even though her own people had ordered her to stay away from humans. At first, no one believed him. "You hit your head too hard," his friends told him in the bars on Frontier Station 9. "You were seeing things. The oxygen loss made you dream. Aliens do not save humans," the officials at the shipping company said when he filed his report. "It must have been a human rescue vessel that you do not remember clearly. The Velari do not interact with other species," a professor at the Earth Science Academy told him. "They keep to themselves. Why would one of them risk everything to save a cargo pilot?" But Danny knew what he had seen. He knew what he had felt. Commander Lyeth had held his hand when he was scared. She had fed him soup made from strange vegetables when he was too weak to feed himself. She had told him stories about her daughter and her homeworld while he recovered in her medical bay. It was real, all of it. So, Danny kept telling the story. He told it to anyone who would listen. He told it to drunk pilots in cheap bars. He told it to curious students at academies. He told it to reporters who wanted strange tales from the frontier. Year after year, he told the story of the Velari commander who had saved a dying human simply because it was the right thing to do. Slowly, people began to believe. The story spread through human space like water finding its way through cracks in stone. Pilots whispered it to each other during long hauls between systems. Children heard it from their parents before bed. Teachers used it as an example of kindness crossing all boundaries. The tale of Commander Lyeth became a legend, passed from person to person across dozens of worlds. Danny did not stay a cargo pilot forever. He applied to the United Earth Fleet and was accepted. He trained hard. He studied harder. The memory of his rescue pushed him forward every day. He wanted to be worthy of the life that had been given back to him. He rose through the ranks faster than anyone expected. Lieutenant, Commander, Captain. Each promotion felt like a step closer to something important, though he could not say exactly what. When Danny became captain of his own ship, the UEF Horizon's Edge, he did something unusual. He asked a craftsman to make him a small symbol to attach to his captain's chair. It was a simple design, a circle with 4 dots around it. It was a Velar symbol, meaning those who help without asking for return. Danny had seen it on a banner in Lyeth's quarters during his recovery. Every time he sat in his chair, he touched that symbol. It reminded him of who he was and who he wanted to be. The years passed. Danny grew older. His hair turned gray at the edges. Lines appeared on his face. But his eyes stayed the same, filled with gratitude and purpose. He never tried to contact Lyeth. The Velar kept to themselves, and he did not want to cause trouble for her. He heard that she had faced some punishment for saving him, though the details were unclear. This made him feel guilty sometimes. She had given him his life, and her reward had been problems with her own people, but he honored her in the only way he could. He told her story. He taught his crew about kindness to strangers. He helped other ships when they were in trouble, even when protocol said it was not his responsibility. He became known throughout the fleet as a captain who never left anyone behind. "Why do you do it?" his first officer asked him one night. Her name was Sandra Cole, and she had served with him for 8 years. "Why do you always take the extra risk to help people?" Danny looked out at the stars through the viewing window. "Because someone did it for me once. A long time ago. In a place where I should have died. She did not know me. She had no reason to help me, but she did it anyway, and here I am." Sandra nodded slowly. She had heard the story before. Everyone in the fleet had heard it. But hearing it from Danny himself was different. "Do you think you will ever see her again?" she asked. "I do not know," Danny said. "But I hope so. I want to thank her properly. I want her to know that her kindness was not wasted." 15 years passed since that day in Sector 17 Gamma. Danny was 51 years old now. His ship was one of the most respected in the fleet. His crew loved him. His superiors trusted him. He had a good life, a meaningful life, but something was missing. He still felt that he owed a debt he could not repay. Then one morning, everything changed. Danny was in his quarters reviewing mission reports when his communication officer called him to the bridge. "Captain, you need to see this. We are receiving a distress signal." Danny walked quickly to the bridge. "What kind of distress signal?" "It is coming from Velar space, sir. Multiple sources. They are broadcasting on all channels." Danny felt his heart stop for a moment. "Put it through." The bridge speakers crackled with static. Then a voice came through, speaking the common galactic language that all species used for emergency communications. The voice was calm but tired, filled with a fear that could not be hidden. "This is Velar Prime calling all vessels. We are under attack. The Kthra Dominion has invaded our system. Our defense fleet is overwhelmed. Our cities are burning. We have no weapons to fight back. If anyone can hear this message, please, we need help. Anyone. Please," the message repeated. Danny stood frozen, listening to it play again and again. The Kthra Dominion. He knew that name. Everyone in the galaxy knew that name. They were conquerors. They took what they wanted and destroyed what they could not use. They had swallowed dozens of peaceful worlds over the centuries, and now they had come for the Velar. Danny thought about Commander Lyeth. He thought about her silver skin and her kind eyes. He thought about her daughter, who would be grown now. He thought about all the Velari scientists and artists and families who had never done anything but study the universe in peace. He thought about the promise he had made 15 years ago, the promise he had repeated to himself every single day since then. I will never forget. As long as I live, I will never forget. Danny turned to his communication officer. Open a channel. All frequencies. Every ship in range, military or civilian. I do not care who they are or what they are doing. I want everyone to hear what I am about to say. The officer looked surprised but did as commanded. Channel open, Captain. Danny took a deep breath. The next words he spoke would change history. He did not know that yet. He only knew what was in his heart, and his heart said it was time to pay back a debt that had waited 15 years too long. Commander Lyeth stood on the bridge of the quiet dawn and watched her world burn. She was old now, even by Velari standards. Her silver skin had faded to a pale gray. 2 of her 4 eyes did not see as well as they used to. Her movements were slower. Her thoughts sometimes clouded by memories of better days. But her heart still worked, both of them, beating together in her chest, filled with fear and grief, and a desperate hope that someone might come to help. Below her ship, the planet Velar Prime was covered in fire. The great crystal cities that had taken thousands of years to build were crumbling under enemy bombs. The libraries that held the knowledge of 100 generations were burning, their precious books turning to ash. The gardens where Velari children played were now craters filled with smoke and death. The Kthra Dominion had come without warning. Their fleet appeared in the system 3 days ago. 200 warships armed with weapons the Velari could not match. The Kthra were known throughout the galaxy as conquerors. They did not negotiate. They did not show mercy. They took what they wanted and killed anyone who stood in their way. The Velari had never been warriors. They had one small defense fleet, built mostly for stopping asteroids and rescuing damaged ships. 30 vessels against 200. It was not a battle. It was a slaughter. Lyeth had watched ship after ship die in the first hours of the attack. She had heard the screams of her friends over the communication channels as their vessels exploded around her. She had given orders to retreat, to regroup, to try again, but there was nothing to try. The Kthra were too strong, and the Velari were too weak. Now only 7 Velari ships remained. 7 ships and a dying world. Commander, her sensor officer said. His name was Torek, the same young man who had served with her 15 years ago. He was not young anymore. None of them were. The Kthra are forming up for another attack run. They will reach the capital city in 20 minutes. The capital city. That was where the central government was located. That was where the emergency shelters were built. That was where 3 million Velari had gathered, hoping the walls would protect them. 3 million souls. And Lyeth had only 7 ships to protect them. Move to intercept, she said quietly. All ships form a defensive line. We will buy the capital as much time as we can. Her crew did not argue. They did not ask questions. They simply obeyed. Because they knew there was nothing else to do. Running would not save them. Hiding would not save them. The only thing left was to stand and fight and hope for a miracle. Lyeth thought about her daughter as the ship moved toward the enemy fleet. Her daughter was down there in the capital, in one of those shelters. She had 2 children of her own now. Lyeth's grandchildren. They were young and beautiful and full of wonder about the universe. They deserved to live. They all deserved to live. But the universe did not care about what people deserved. The Kthra ships grew larger on the viewing screen. They were ugly vessels, built for war and nothing else. Their hulls were covered in weapons. Their engines burned with angry red light. They moved through space like predators hunting prey. Enemy ships are locking weapons on us, Torek reported. They will fire in 30 seconds. Lyeth closed her eyes for a moment. She remembered a young human man lying in her medical bay long ago. She remembered his weak voice asking why she had saved him. She remembered telling him it was the right thing to do. Had it been worth it? Had anything been worth it? She had been punished for saving that human. Her superiors had demoted her for 3 years. They had watched her carefully for a decade after that, waiting for her to break another rule. Some of her colleagues had called her foolish. Others had called her brave. Lyeth had never known which word was correct. The human had made her a promise. He had said he would never forget what she did. But humans lived short lives and had short memories. He was probably dead by now, or old and forgotten on some distant world. Promises made by dying men rarely survived the years. 15 seconds to enemy fire, Torek said. Lyeth opened her eyes. All ships, fire everything we have, make them remember us. The 7 Velari ships fired their weapons. It was a pitiful display compared to the Kthra fleet. Small beams of energy struck the enemy shields and did nothing. The Kthra did not even slow down. Then the Kthra fired back. The universe turned white. Lyeth felt her ship shake as explosions erupted all around her. Warning alarms screamed. Crew members shouted damage reports. 2 of the 7 Velari ships disappeared from her sensors, destroyed in an instant. 5 ships left, then 4, then 3. The quiet dawn was hit again and again. Lyeth fell to the deck as the bridge tilted wildly. She tasted blood in her mouth. One of her arms would not move. She crawled back to her feet and looked at the viewing screen. The Kthra fleet was still coming. Unstoppable. Merciless. The capital city was minutes away from complete destruction. Send the distress signal again, Lyeth ordered. Her voice was barely a whisper. Send it on all channels. Someone must hear us. Someone must come. Torek, bleeding from a wound on his head, activated the communication system. The message went out into space, traveling at the speed of light, reaching for any ear that might listen. This is Velar Prime. We are under attack. If anyone can hear us, please. We need help. Lyeth sank into her chair. Around her, her crew was dying. Below her, her world was dying. Everything she had ever known and loved was being destroyed, and there was nothing she could do to stop it. She thought about kindness. She had spent her whole life believing that kindness mattered. She had believed that good deeds created good outcomes. She had believed that the universe rewarded those who helped others. Now, watching her civilization end, she wondered if she had been a fool. The Kthra fleet was almost at the capital. Soon, the bombs would fall. Soon, her daughter and grandchildren would die. Soon, everything would be over. Lyeth closed her eyes and waited for the end, but the end did not come. Instead, her sensor officer made a sound she had never heard him make before. It was something between a gasp and a cry. It was the sound of someone seeing something impossible. Commander, Torek said, his voice shaking. Commander, you need to see this. Lyeth opened her eyes. She looked at the sensors. At first, she did not understand what she was seeing. There were new contacts appearing at the edge of the system. Many contacts. Too many to count. What is it? She asked. More Kthra ships? No, Torek said. Tears were running down his face now. He turned to look at her with wonder in his eyes. Not Kthra. The signatures are. They are human. Commander, those are human ships. Lyeth stared at the sensor display. The contacts kept appearing. One after another after another. 10 ships. 20. 50. 100. More and more. Pouring through space like a river of stars. Human ships. Coming to Velar Prime. Lyeth felt something she had not felt in days. Something she had almost forgotten how to feel. Hope. Captain Danny Mercer stood on the bridge of the horizon's edge with his heart pounding in his chest. The distress signal from Velar Prime was still playing through the speakers. The same message, over and over. A world dying. A people begging for help. A voice growing more desperate with each repeat. His communication officer looked at him with wide eyes. All channels are open, Captain. Everyone in range will hear you. Danny touched the small Velari symbol on his chair. He thought about Commander Lyeth. He thought about her silver hands holding his when he was dying. He thought about the promise he had made in that quiet medical bay so many years ago. Then he began to speak. This is Captain Danny Mercer of the UEF Horizon's Edge. I am broadcasting on all frequencies to every ship that can hear my voice. Military vessels, civilian ships, cargo haulers, medical frigates, research vessels, passenger liners, anyone with engines and a heart. He paused. The bridge was silent. His crew watched him with a mixture of confusion and curiosity. 15 years ago, I was dying in an escape pod in Sector 17 Gamma. My ship had been destroyed by raiders. My crew was dead. I had no oxygen. I had no hope. I was a stranger in the void, and no one was coming to save me. Danny's voice grew stronger as he continued. But someone did come. A Velari commander named Lyeth found my pod. She had no treaty with humans. She had no obligation to help. Her own people told her to leave me alone, but she brought me aboard her ship anyway. She spent 11 days nursing me back to health. She saved my life for no reason except that it was the right thing to do. He pointed at the speakers where the distress signal still played faintly in the background. Now the Velari are dying. The Kthra Dominion is destroying their homeworld. They have no weapons. They have no military. They are a peaceful people who have never hurt anyone, and they are being slaughtered. Danny took a deep breath. I am going to help them. I am changing course for Velar Prime right now. I do not care what the regulations say. I do not care what my orders are. I made a promise 15 years ago, and I intend to keep it. His voice dropped to something quieter, something more personal. I know most of you have heard my story. The tale of the Velari who saved the human. Some of you believed it. Some of you did not. But I am telling you now, every word of it is true. And I am asking you to help me repay that debt. Help one human, and you help all humans. That is what we always say about ourselves. Well, now it is time to prove it. Follow me to Velar Prime. Fight beside me. Show the galaxy what human gratitude looks like. Danny stopped speaking. The channel remained open. Silence stretched across the void. Then, one by one, the responses began to come. The first voice belonged to Captain Katie Shaw of the UEF Iron Vanguard. She was stationed 2 systems away, running patrol duty near the frontier. Mercer. This is Shaw. I heard your story when I was a cadet. I always hoped it was true. Iron Vanguard is changing course. We are with you. The second response came from Captain Ben Torres of the medical frigate Mercy's Hand. Horizon's Edge. This is Mercy's Hand. We are not a warship, but we have doctors and supplies. If the Velari are going to survive this, they will need us. We are coming. Then Captain Laura Kim of the Deep Space Explorer New Dawn. Danny, this is Laura. We went to the academy together, remember? You told me that story on graduation night. You said you wanted to be the kind of captain who never left anyone behind. Well, here is your chance. New Dawn is ready. More voices followed. Captain Sam Griffin of the cargo hauler Lucky Strike changed course with a hold full of food and medicine. Captain Ryan Cole of the patrol cruiser Defiant fell in line with all weapons armed. Captain Maria Santos of the heavy cruiser Thunderchild broke off from her convoy mission and turned toward Velari space. The responses came faster and faster. Ships that Danny had never heard of. Captains he had never met. The story of Commander Lyeth had traveled farther than he ever knew. It had touched hearts he had never imagined. This is the freighter Blue Horizon. We are just a cargo ship, but we are coming. This is the mining vessel Rock Steady. We have drilling lasers that can punch through anything. Point us at the enemy. Why? I love. Why? Why? This is the passenger liner Star of Hope. We have no weapons. But we have 2,000 civilians who refuse to run. They want to help. Tell us where to go. Danny listened to the voices with tears running down his face. His crew was crying too. His first officer, Sandra Cole, put her hand on his shoulder. You did it, she whispered. They are coming. They are all coming. Within 6 hours, the call had spread across human space. News networks picked up the story. Social media exploded with support. Politicians made speeches. Protesters demanded that the government send the entire fleet. Ordinary people on dozens of worlds looked up at the sky and prayed for the ships that were racing to save a world they had never seen. The numbers kept growing. 100 ships. 200. 300. More. And more. Jumping through hyperspace. Converging on Velar Prime from every direction. They were not all military vessels. Most of them were not. They were cargo ships and medical frigates and research vessels and passenger liners. They were crewed by ordinary people who had heard a story about kindness and decided they wanted to be part of it. A Velari had saved one human. Now every human who could make the journey was coming to save the Velari. Danny stood on his bridge and watched the tactical display fill with friendly contacts. He thought about the young cargo pilot he had been 15 years ago. Scared. Dying. Alone. He thought about Commander Lyeth's 4 gentle eyes, looking down at him with kindness. She had given him more than his life that day. She had given him a purpose, a mission, a reason to be better than he was. Now he would give her something in return. All ships, Danny said into the communication channel. His voice was steady now, strong, full of a determination that nothing could break. This is Captain Mercer. Form up on the horizon's edge. We jump to Velar Prime in 1 hour. When we arrive, we hit the Kthra with everything we have. No mercy, no retreat. We fight until the Velari are safe, or we die trying. 412 ships answered with a single word. Understood. The greatest fleet in human history prepared to jump, and at its head flew a simple captain with gray hair and grateful eyes, carrying a debt 15 years old to a friend he had never stopped remembering. The universe was about to learn what happened when you helped a human. They paid it back. With interest. The Kthra fleet commander watched his sensors with confusion. New ships were appearing at the edge of the Velari system. Many new ships. Far too many to make sense. What is this? He demanded. Who are they? His sensor officer checked the readings 3 times before answering. His voice was uncertain. They appear to be human vessels. Commander. Many different types. Warships. Cargo ships. Medical vessels. Civilian transports. They are all coming here. How many? The sensor officer swallowed hard. Over 400 ships, Commander. And more are arriving every minute. The Kthra commander stared at the display. This was impossible. Humans had no treaty with the Velari. They had no reason to interfere. The Kthra had studied human military strength carefully before this invasion. They knew humans were not organized enough to respond to anything this quickly. Yet here they were. 400 ships and counting. A communication request appeared on the command screen. It was coming from the lead human vessel, a warship called the Horizon's Edge. The Kthra commander accepted the request. A human face appeared on the screen. The human was older, with gray hair and lines on his face. But his eyes burned with a fire that made the Kthra commander uncomfortable. Kthra Dominion, the human said. His voice was calm but cold. This is Captain Danny Mercer of the United Earth Fleet and allied vessels. The Velari are under our protection now. You will withdraw from this system immediately, or you will face the full consequences of threatening those we call friends. The Kthra commander laughed. It was a harsh sound, full of contempt. You dare threaten us? We have 200 warships here. Your fleet is a joke. Half your vessels are not even armed. The human captain smiled. It was not a friendly smile. You are right. Many of our ships are not warships. They are cargo haulers and medical frigates and passenger liners. They are crewed by ordinary people who came here because they believe in something you will never understand. And what is that? Gratitude, the human said. 15 years ago, a Velari commander saved my life when she had no reason to. Now I am here to return the favor. And I brought everyone who heard my story and wanted to help. The Kthra commander studied the human fleet on his sensors. The numbers were growing. 412 ships now. Some were tiny. Some were huge. They were not organized like a proper military fleet. They were a chaotic swarm of vessels from every corner of human space. But they were coming, all of them. Together. You are fools, the Kthra commander said. You will die for a species that is not even your own kind. Maybe, Captain Mercer replied. But we will die, knowing we did the right thing. Can you say the same? The communication ended. The Kthra commander ordered his fleet to attack. The battle that followed would be remembered for centuries. The human fleet struck the Kthra with a fury no one had expected. The warships led the charge, their weapons blazing. The cargo haulers followed, using their bulk as shields and their engines as weapons. The mining vessels fired drilling lasers that punched through Kthra armor like paper. Even the passenger liners helped, their pilots flying into the chaos to rescue damaged ships and save wounded crew members. The Kthra were experienced warriors. They had conquered dozens of worlds, but they had never faced an enemy like this. The humans did not fight like soldiers. They fought like a family protecting their home. They threw themselves into danger without hesitation. They sacrificed their ships to save others. They refused to retreat even when they were outgunned and outmatched. Commander Lyeth watched from the bridge of the Quiet Dawn as the battle unfolded. Her ship was too damaged to fight, but she could see everything on her sensors. She watched human vessels explode and human crews die. She watched them keep coming anyway, wave after wave, refusing to give up. Tears ran down her silver face. She had never seen anything like this. No species in the galaxy would do what these humans were doing. No one risked their lives for strangers. No one came this far to repay a debt this old. But the humans did, every single one of them. After 3 hours, the Kthra fleet began to break. Their losses were too heavy. Their commanders were dying. The human swarm would not stop, would not slow down, would not give them a moment to breathe. The Kthra commander sent a final message before his ship was destroyed. Retreat. All ships retreat. This system is cursed. Leave it to the humans and their friends. The surviving Kthra vessels fled into hyperspace. They would never return to Velar space again. When the battle ended, 93 human ships had been destroyed. Thousands of humans had died. But Velar Prime was saved. The capital city still stood. 3 million Velari were alive, because strangers from across the galaxy had come to help them. Commander Lyeth received a communication request from the horizon's edge. She accepted it with shaking hands. A familiar face appeared on her screen. Older now. Gray hair. Tired eyes. But the same grateful expression she remembered from 15 years ago. Commander Lyeth, Danny Mercer said softly. I told you I would never forget. Lyeth could not speak for a moment. Her throat was tight with emotion. Finally, she managed to whisper. You brought all of them. All these ships. All these people. Why would they come? Why would they die for us? Danny smiled. Because you helped one human. Commander. One dying stranger in an escape pod. You saved my life when you did not have to. And I spent 15 years telling everyone about it. He leaned closer to the screen. Every captain in this fleet knows your story. They came because they wanted you to understand something. What? Lyeth asked. Help one of us, Danny said. And you have all of us. Forever. That is what humans are. That is what we believe. Kindness is never wasted on us. We remember it. We honor it. And we pay it back, no matter how long it takes. Lyeth looked at the sensors showing the human fleet surrounding her world. 400 ships from across the galaxy. Ordinary people who had left their lives behind to save strangers. Families who would never see their loved ones again because they had chosen to fight for a species they had never met. All because she had pulled one dying human from the void 15 years ago. Thank you, she said. It was all she could say. It was not enough, but it was all she had. Danny shook his head. No, thank you, Commander. You taught me what it means to be kind without expecting anything in return. You made me the man I am today. This fleet is not a repayment. It is a tribute to you and everything you showed me. The galaxy watched the aftermath of the battle with amazement. They saw 400 human ships standing guard over a world they had no obligation to protect. They saw humans building shelters and treating wounds and sharing food with aliens they had never met before. They saw the impossible made real through stubborn, foolish, wonderful human loyalty. And every species in the galaxy learned the same lesson that day: never underestimate human gratitude. Because when you help one of them, you become family. And humanity will burn the stars themselves to protect their family. Lyeth stood on her bridge, surrounded by human ships, and smiled. One small act of kindness, 15 years of waiting, and now, finally, the universe had balanced its scales. Some debts are never forgotten, some promises are always kept, and some species, when you help them, help you back with everything they have, forever.